Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Kirivaradari Jasoda Nandana Vrajana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 16th chapter, text 25. Dharani Vacha Bhavan Hi Veda Tat Sarvam Yan Mam Dharmanupechasi Chaturbir Vartase Yena Padir Loka Sukhavahai Dharani Uvacha Bhavan Hi Veda Tat Sarvam Yanmam Dharma Purichasi Chaturpir Vartaseyena Parare Loka Sukhe Vahai Dharani Vacha Bhavan Hi Veda Tat Sarvam Yanmam Dharmanupechasi Chaturbir Vartates Yena Vadir Loka Sukhavahai Dharani Uvacha Bhavan Hi Veda Tat Sarvam Yanmam Dharma Pachashasi Chaturbir Vartaseyena Padir Loka Sukhe Havai Dharani Uvacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tat Sarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmang Dharmanu Prichasi
Yadmam Dharma Prashishasi
Chatur Birvarta Seyena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Adar Loka Sukha Vahai
Padir Loka Sakavahai
Dharanya Uvacha
Dharani Vacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmam Dharmanuprichyasi
Yanmam Dharmani Pishasi
Jaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Padar Loka Sukavahi
Padir Loka Sakavahai
Dharanya Uvacha
Dharanya Vacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmam Dharmanu Prichasi
Yanmam Dharmani Pishasi
Chaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Adar Loka Sukhavai
Padir Loka Sakavahai
Dharanyuvacha
Dharani Vacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmam Dharmanuprichyasi
Yanmam Dharmanu Pishasi
Chaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Padar Loka Sukha Vahai
Padhir Loka Sakavahai
Dharanyuvacha
Dharani Vacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmam Dharmanuprichyasi
Yanmam Dharmanu Pishasi
Chaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Hadar Loka Sukhavahai
Padhir Loka Sakavahai
Dharani Uvacha
Dharani Vacha
Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam
Bhavani Veda Tatsarvam
Yanmam Dharmanu Prichasi
Yanmam Dharmanu Pishasi
Chaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Padir Loka Sukhavai
Padhir Loka Sakavahai So everybody chanted? Everybody chant online?
Vacha,
Okay. Everybody's going to chant?
Dharanya Vacha, Bhavan hi Veda Tatsarvam Yanmam Dharmanu Prichhyasi
Yanmam Dharmanu Pishasi
Chaturbir Vartasayena
Chatur Birvartasayena
Padar Loka Sukhavai
Padhir Loka Sakavahai. Anyone else want to chant online or we'll do the word for word synonyms? Okay. Dharani Vacha. Mother Earth replied, Bhavan, your good self, he certainly, Veda, no, Tatsarvam, all that you've inquired from me, yet that, Mom, from me, Dharma, whole personality of religious principles, Anuprichasi, you have inquired one after another. Chaturbi, by four, but to say you exist. Yena, by which? Pade, by the legs. Loka, in each and every planet. Sukha avahai, increasing the happiness. Translation: the earthly deity in the form of a cow thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of a bull. O Dharma, Whatever you have inquired from me shall be known to you. I shall try to reply to all those questions. Once you too were maintained by your four legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. Purport: the principles of religion are laid down by the Lord himself, and the executor of such laws is Dharmaraj or Yamaraj. Such principles work fully in the age of Satya Yuga. In the Treta Yuga, they were reduced by a fraction of 1/4. In the Dwapara Yuga, they were reduced to 1/2. And in the Kali Yuga, they were reduced to 1/4, gradually diminishing to the 0 point, and then devastation takes place. Happiness in the world depends proportionately on the maintenance of the religious principles, individually or collectively. The best part of valor is to maintain the principles despite all kinds of odds. Thus one can be happy during the span of life and ultimately return to Godhead. So these are some pretty nice verses here. So the four pillars of religiosity are the cows and bulls' legs: mercifulness, cleanliness, austerity, and truthfulness. And mercifulness. So Prabhupada was talking about the mercy, the mercifulness. The hospital persons, they may or may not be inclined to help the diseased patients, but they help the patients out of their mercy and compassion for the suffering of the patients, like that. And then he said that there was two types of service: the Shreya and it's like material service or just service. It's not out of love, but then like service to the spiritual master, right? Now that's Prabhupada was saying that it's not like after 3 days, you know, some yoga retreat, some rascal, some fool, he says he's Rama and Krishna or Bhagavan, right? So then after 3 days, you're his disciple. And he said, Rupa Goswami, he states that after 1 year, the disciple and guru relationship, the disciple will aspire to serve the spiritual master for 1 year and learn from him. And then not only that, what Prabhupada was saying is that, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Pranipatena Sevana, is that just approach the spiritual master and inquire and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. So Prabhupada was saying about that, Sa Eva Pragatchit, is that Strotrium, is that one must approach a spiritual master. There's no other way, and this is the way that Krishna wants to be approached. And so Prabhupada was also saying that there's religion and there's actual dharma. So here's the principles of dharma, the principles of religion by Dharma or Dharmaraj, you know, or I think he's referring that to Dharani Uvacha, like the Dharma, the earthly deity in the form of a cow. So religion is like something like a faith, where he's saying that Dharma in Western dictionaries is translated to remain some kind of religion or faith. But he was saying it's not by some sentiment, you know, or some blind following or something external that can be changed. You know, one maybe one was a Christian or Judaic and converted to Muslimism, or you know, converted to so many different other things. But real Dharma is that which doesn't change. It's Sanatana Dharma. It's eternal, the eternal occupation or eternal functioning of the actual spirit soul. So Prabhupada was saying that you have to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is received from the spiritual master. He says, first we say, don't come and speak Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We say, come and chant with us, come and hear, come and chant with us. So he says, first we chant and it cleanses the heart. And then gradually you can understand the philosophy like that. So he says, that's very important. It's the chanting process, the hearing and the watering process of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra that actually begin to appreciate and understand this philosophy, the Bhagavad Dharma philosophy. is that this is the highest boon, highest religious principles for human society. Prabhupada was saying about without that, it's just simply animal society. So Prabhupada was talking about how also persons, they're more inclined to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It's that they want to be a religious person or known as a religious person. So there's dharma, and then artha, there's the economic development, dharma, artha, kama, sense gratification, and then moksha, at last to become one with the Supreme. Prabhupada was saying that this is also sense gratification of the impersonalists, to try to become one with the Supreme. You know, it's still material. It's become a competitor to the Lord, and actually become an offense, offensive to the Supreme Lord. So, but generally, this is what society is geared towards: is liberation or moksha, sense gratification, economic development, and education, and religious principles. But the actual real religious principles will help you become actually truly happy. The Prabhupada is saying is the animal society is the mitigation of their miseries and trying to increase their happiness. But he says that, but that's not possible. The religious principles are reducing to 1/4 in the Kali Yuga, and then gradually diminishing, and then devastation. So that's actual real happiness, is that it can be derived from adopting the specific religious principles, or the Sanatana Dharma, surrendering to a spiritual master, and engaging in the process of devotional service, and not remaining on the platforms of the animals, the hogs, dogs, camels, asses, like that. So Prabhupada was saying that it's also since the beginning of creation, he was referring to the Bhagavad Gita verse, that the sacrifices for Vishnu were sent forth along with generations of men and God, and men and animals, demigods, and said, "Be thou happy by the Jagat sacrifice." And the saintly kings, they understood it in this way, like that. They understood what Krishna spoke to the sun god spoke it to his son Ishvaku spoke it to Manu, the father of mankind. Saintly and the saintly kings, they understood in this way through the chain of disciplic succession, like that. So it's not a inductive process whereby by speculation or some other exercises. Because Prabhupada was saying that those in the bodily conception of life, then there's Hatha Yoga. And so then they began to practice the physical disciplines of the Hatha Yoga. We become purified from at least the bodily conception of life. But in the devotional service and Bhakti Yoga and our Sanatana Dharma, this is automatically achieved by understanding Bhagavad Gita, and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, engaging in devotional service. We're automatically placed on the transcendental platforms, that this is transcendental knowledge, and this is transcendental activity. It's not material activity. You know, even at the lowest aspect, you know, eating foods offered to the deity, specifically in the mode of goodness. But our deity, Sri Gaur Nitai, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, this is transcendental to material goodness. So it's the ultimate good. So one becomes purified by taking Krishna Prasad. The proper medicine is taking Krishna Prasad and chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhupada say that devotional service begins with the tongue, like that. So we engage the tongue in chanting and hearing, and gradually we become purified. We understand this process. So Prabhupada was also talking about the acceptance of the spiritual master is very, very important. One must accept the spiritual master whom he can surrender to. And, it's not some cheap thing like the Mayavadis may have, but it's an ongoing relationship. Prabhupada says that ultimate surrender like that. So he said generally when there's a novice, there's no love. He's told to do this and to do that. He might question, well, why this and why that? Until he gets the whole picture. Once you get the whole picture and there's a relationship and then there's love. So I said it's just like that in the beginning. Offer relevant inquiries from the spiritual master and render devotional service and engage in this process wholeheartedly like that. So and those are the principles of Bhakti Yoga, also laid down by Rupa Goswami, is making friends with the devotees, associate with the devotees like that. Here, the transcendental subject matter in the association assembly of devotees. So this is our process. So it's still really pretty early. So so Prabhupada was saying without the religious principles, then society is just no better than the animal society. So it's just animalistic. That's what the whole process of sense enjoyment on an animalistic platform, trying to make things easier and to satisfy the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. I believe we had spoken about that previously too. But actual real happiness is not derived from the senses. It's stated in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are wise and learned, they do not take part of the sources of misery, which have a beginning and an end. Like that. So they do not contemplate the objects of the senses. They're not engaged in material external activity. It's just simply troublesome, and it just simply has a beginning and an end. And then there's nivritti is the cessation. So the cessation of miseries, the cessation of anartha nivritti, the giving up of unwanted things that we don't need, like that, and just engaged in devotional service just simply and easily in the natural process of just remembering Krishna. So, are there any questions or something for discussion? Yeah.
So I was wondering, why is it sense gratification if you desire moksha or liberation?
Yeah, because it's still material activity. They want to become one with the Supreme. It's still on the platform of being self-centered. Self-centered and sense satisfaction, even though that they may practice tapasya or austerity. But it's still considered sense gratification, like that. One trying to enjoy one's own senses or trying to enjoy separately or independent of the Supreme, actually becoming the Supreme, becoming one with the Lord. Or Prabhupada is saying there's no void anywhere within the creation of God. Krishna states that he pervades the entire universe. He has a couple of features. There's the Paramatma feature, and he states all things rest on me as pearls strung on a thread. And he also says by his impersonal, his unmanifest form. So Krishna has a specific form of unmanifestation. Maharaj mentioned that before. Prabhupada was saying that there's no void or no non-existence anywhere within the creation of God, except that the Krishna, he specifically has a specific form, and it's a form of unmanifestation, like that. So Krishna is so kind, he'll absorb the aspiring yogi into Brahman, or allow him to merge into, an unmanifested state, but there's no such thing as nothing. Like that, it doesn't exist. that which is like a beginning and an end. It's a material concept. So, generally when we were introduced to meditation or so-called spiritual life, we're introduced to some impersonal conceptions. Modern religion has an impersonal conception about God. They really don't know what God is. They can also say things like the silence, is God, or so many other different things. That love is God, like that. The light is God. God is in the darkness. God is everywhere. But they don't know that Srimad Bhagavatam gives what Prabhupada was saying: God's address, God's name, his mother and father, like that. There's Yashoda Maharaj and Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva and Devaki, and his specific appearance, his four-armed form of Narayan, Vishnu, fully decked with ornaments, with clothes as bright as yellow as lightning, like that. So the specific nature of Krishna's appearance and disappearance, they don't take into consideration Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not the text for the impersonalists. They don't really understand it. They think it's the Supreme Brahman within the Brahman. What Prabhupada was saying, some rascal, like he says he's Rama and Krishna, like Rama, Krishna, some rascal, like that, posing themselves God or Bhagavan. Actually, Prabhupada was saying that Bhagavan refers to any, like Sukadeva Goswami, any very learned person. Also, he can also be addressed to as referred to as Bhagavan. Of course, there's Bhagavan. He's the possessor of all opulences, and generally that's Krishna. All opulence, wealth, beauty, knowledge, fame, renunciation, like that, all full in 6 opulences. But Bhagavan can also somebody who's very learned. Or what is Bhagavat? There's the book Bhagavat, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then there's the person Bhagavat. Is the spiritual master who's become realized in this knowledge, like that, and he can spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Very learned in the scriptures. His heart is purified, like that. So he can. That's also Bhagavat, the person Bhagavat and the book Bhagavat. So he never speaks anything different than the book Bhagavat, like that. And the book Bhagavat supports this. We have this question like that. So, but yes, it's self-interested. We become one with the Lord, become a competitor of the Lord. The Brahma Samhita states that too, is that the Supreme Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Savakarna Karna, is that Krishna is the Supreme Controller. He has no competitor, like that. Anyone who thinks they can compete. Who was it? There was someone in the Krishna book. He put on a couple extra arms for like being Narayan or Vishnu. I don't know. I don't know how anybody, because I was kind of thinking like 5,000 years ago, but 5,000 years ago they had some pretty far out stuff, but I don't know if they were like working arms or they were just like fake arms that looked fake, or if they're mechanical by mystic power, like real live arms or something. But Krishna just said, "Oh, you rascal!" Just said it to son Chakra and got out of his head. Just that simply, or just that easily, like that. So the cheap imitators are just exactly that, cheap imitations. Don't accept any cheap imitations. I think all the television commercials say that. They say get the real thing, capture the real Krishna, like that. So if you try to find someone, Prabhupada said everyone has some controller. So like that, this manager has a supervisor and a manager, and you go on and on and on. But if you come to Krishna, then there's no other controller who controls Krishna. Actually, Krishna is controlled by his love, by his devotional service. He tells the gopis that he cannot repay his debt to them for their service like that. So it just simply gives himself to them like that. Out of his indebtedness, that there's just nothing else that could be repaid that he could. But he just gives him himself. But so he's conquered by his love, like Mother Jasoda was chasing Krishna with a rope and a stick, like that. And so Sri Damodara Krishna was running in fear. Mother Jasoda tried to bind him with the ropes and tied all the ropes together in a whole village, and still it was 2 fingers or 2 inches too short. She still couldn't tie the knot until she just gave up and surrendered. So then Krishna, out of his love, like that, out of service surrender attitude, so then he allows himself to be tied up by Mother Jasoda. So like, this can only be, or Prabhupada, I was saying, and I was listening to a lecture just the other day, is that the Sukadeva Goswami, he's saying that the impersonalists, they want to become one with the Supreme, but who is this person? He's the Brahman, the Para Brahman. He's allowing his friends to get on his shoulders. Like that, how many heaps of pious activities did the coward boys perform to actually be engaged in a friendly relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and enjoying with him practically almost on an equal level? How exalted they must be, like that. And they're not aspiring to try to become one like the impersonalists. Yeah. Any other question? You have a question or comment? Points of discussion?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks for your class. So in the verse, it's saying, once you two were maintained by your 4 legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. I'm just curious about this point with you increased happiness all over the universe. So the bull is telling...
Yeah, the religious principles were the legs of the bull. So when the legs of the bull were strong, like the Satya-yuga, 100%, and then gradually diminishing in Treta-yuga and Dwapara and Kali-yuga. The legs of the bull are the pillars of religiosity, of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercifulness, and austerity. So it's actually equal to the 4 pillars of sinful activity. Mercifulness, or a lack of mercifulness, is meat eating, so that's sinful. And then illicit sex, that's the aspect of cleanliness or uncleanliness, is illicit sex. And then austerity, intoxication, and truthfulness, gambling. So in the Kali Yuga, I don't think we got to the verse yet where we actually see a bull standing on one leg, or the bull of Kali is speaking about that. His last leg is, and even then it's shaking. And I think that leg was like truthfulness, or it's like that. But the other 4 legs, pillars of religion, are breaking down in society. So therefore, no one can be happy if there's no religious principles. I know it was mentioned before, they took religion out of schools. So I don't remember actually praying in school, but I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance. But my dad was saying when he was a kid, when he was in school, when they'd come back in from recess or lunch, they'd say, there'd be a rest period. They'd say, okay, in your own way, just, reflect on pray to God in your own way, whatever your religion is or whatever. So, I guess the thing about taking their preaching or teaching with the Big Bang creation theory, evolution. You know, Prabhupada would say the master of evolution, Darwin, he still has to fall. He also has to die like that. And just like everyone else through the process of transmigration, through the process of repeated birth and death. So what problems did he solve? He didn't solve any problems, just made things worse. So it's becoming a more and more godless society. So when it becomes a godless society, when religious principles are being reduced, then the unhappiness increases. Like that. And that's just very natural. Is that they used to show President Kennedy, and it's the first lady, Jacqueline Kennedy, and on Sundays they'd be standing in front of the church. They'd be going to mass in the morning. As the photographic picture pride of the American citizen. As the youngest president in the United States. So kind of showing him, depicting him like this, but, gradually that's all been reduced. They're not interested. In fact, what was it Obama said, that the United States is no longer a Christian nation? Whatever that was all about. So, he had his explanation for that. So Prabhupada was saying the churches are just becoming empty. So Maharaj mentioned that Srila Prabhupada was in LA. Kai Gora Nitai Ki Jai. And so the temple in LA was a church. And then there was someone who was there who used to come there when it was a church. But all the churches are empty. They're selling their buildings. There was, Prabhupada was talking about one building they wanted to purchase. But apparently the priests or the religious people there were a demon. They're going, Bhaktivedanta Swami, International Society of Krishna Consciousness, would rather burn down the building than sell it to you. so that's their misfortune. That's their demonic tendencies. Let's just see them go preaching their Bible verses to the Yamadutas and see how far they get. Like that. So, the actual real principle of religion is surrender. Sarva Dharma Prikchaja Mama Kam Sarnamajaham Pam Twabas Pipyo Moshishami Mashicha. Banning all varieties of religion and occupations and Dharma, and just surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so then that will actually make society happy. Not the animalistic propensities of increasing the facilities for eating, sleeping, mating, and depending. It's just making everyone more and more godless and more miserable. So that's your question. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what was the question in the beginning? Oh, about the bull and the bull's 4 legs. So that's his 4 legs were religious principles, and its last leg, and even then it's shaking. So like that. So that's the process in Kali. You can tell all of the religious principles completely become diminished, and then devastation. Yeah. So that's how important the cow and the bull is in human society. And there's the symbols of religion like that. And the milk is liquid religiosity, and it's very, very good for the body. And so many things can be made from milk. The milk, the yogurt, buttermilk, butter, ghee becomes oil for frying and cooking, and that's like really far out. Prabhupada says the fat of the animal just eats the grass and then produces the milk. And then we're going to use it for so many different purposes. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Or Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam class ki jai.